Hello everyone. So welcome to the lesson of 20th of April. That's going to be Monday. Yes, yesterday, of course, there was no video, and it's okay to take a break once in a while. So as I told you before, of course, we will be following. I will be going back to geometry. I told you as soon as we finish algebra, we'll go back to geometry and finish the two lessons which we left out. Why we left out is that because the same concept you have learned already in algebra as well as in the other lessons of geometry, which is the slopes of lines, and then using the slopes to find whether they are parallel, perpendicular, all this. But now, because we have enough time to finish the lesson, so we have to go back and do the lessons, as they are very important. These are very important part of geometry and algebra, which you will also be carrying to grade 8. Okay, so first let's start with this. It's nothing new to you. You all have already known why we are doing this, why I am doing this, because now we will be concentrating more on the problem solving parts of these lessons. As always, we skip the problem solving, so now we have time to concentrate on the problem solving, as you cannot escape from problem solving. Problems are everywhere and we need to solve them. Okay, so this is chapter 3, lesson 5 in geometry book. That's page 182. Okay, so slopes of lines. Now before I start, there's a small message for those who are those who have disappeared out of nowhere, the girls who are not in touch, or I can say with this, they have completely disappeared out in the world. I don't know where they are. Do drop a message if you are still visible in here. Okay, like there are many, except for the few who always ask me doubts and who always communicate with me. Other than that, out of 43 students, I guess, yeah, there are almost 40. Out of 40, there are hardly 8 or 9 who are always in touch with me, and I have no idea where the other 32 are have disappeared. So do drop a message if you're still existing. Okay, so lesson 5, slopes of lines. We have the slope of a line in a coordinate plane is a number that describes the steepness of a line. Steepness means how deep a line is. So this is why we need to find the slope. A slope defines how steep a line is, the deepness of a line. Any 2 points on a line can be used to determine the slope. Okay, so we can take any 2 points, but in most of the questions here, they have already given you the points. So we just need to take the coordinates and then do it. We have already even learned the formula of slope, y2 minus y1, m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. There are many ways to find slope. So formula is one way, and then using rise over run is another way, as we did in the algebra lessons. Okay, so here they have just defined the three: rise over run and then the slope. Rise is the difference in y values of 2 points in a line. So remember, rise means, I used to tell you, either you go up or come down. Come down is a fall, go up is a rise, means you're going up. So that's the difference in the y values. The run is the difference in the x values. So either you move to the right or you move to the left, because the x-axis is horizontal. So either you move to the right or you move to the left. The y-axis is vertical, so that's why we move up. Move up, we say, is a rise, and coming down, we say, is a negative rise, which means it's a fall. Okay, the slope of a line is the ratio of rise to run. If x1, y1 and x2, y2 are any 2 points on a line, the slope of the line is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Why is that I'm feeling I'm just reading what's in the book? Okay, anyhow, you girls already know this. So with this example, let me just show you how to find the area, not area, sorry, that's the lesson I was doing for grade 6. Fine. The slope of this line. So here they have given us this 1 point and this 1 point. So up to you, however you want. You can make this as x1, y1, or this as x2, y2. Up to you, or you make this as x1, y1 and this as x2, y2. It's okay. Okay. Now, using the formula, yes, you will just see what point this is. This is 1 and 1. So x2, let me just write it there so that it will be clear for you. Okay, so this is going, this coordinate for this point, the point is going to be 1, 1, because x is 1, y is 1, and for this it's going to be x is 5 and y is 7. So let's, just to show you, just to get you yourselves brushed up to what we did before in the previous lessons. Okay, again, as usual, it doesn't work. Okay, fine. So x1 for this is going to be 1 and y is going to be 1. So that's going to be 1, 1. So x2 for this point is going to be 5 So that's going to be 5. And then y2, which is the value of y, that's going to be 7. Okay, so you have to just write the coordinates for the point, that's all. So if you're using the formula, it will be y2, so 7 minus 1, which is 6, over x2 minus x1, which is 5 minus 1, which is equal to 4. So it's going to be 6 over 4, and when you simplify it with 2, you will get 3 over 2. If you're using the concept of rise over run, that's going to be the same. So rise from this point, go up until you reach the point perpendicular to that. So you go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you go 6 up and then 4 to the right. So 6 over 4, which means if you simplify also, you will be getting 3 over 2. Isn't it easy? Okay, now use the slope. Now again, it's the same. Either when they say use the slope formula, of course you need to be using the slope formula. Just to check, you can use rise over run. Okay, so here they said use the slope formula to determine the slope of each line. So you write the coordinate for this point. What's the coordinate for this? It's going to be 2 and 3, right? And for the other point that's here, it's going to be 7 or 7, and the value of y is going to be 5. So you can take this as x1, y1, or this as x1, y1, no problem. Only you have to use the formula. So let's take this as x1, y1, and this as x2, y2. So the formula is y2 minus y1. So that's going to give you 5 minus 3, which is 2. And then 7 minus 2, which is going to give you 5. So your slope is going to be 2 over 5. As you can see, they have done the steps here. Now, if you're using the rise over run formula, this just for checking. You can either go this side. So you go to the, you first start with the run and then you write the rise, but writing the rise is important as that's the number which is going to be up. So let's see from this point to this point, how many do we have to move up? So we have to move 1, 2 up and then 5 to the right. So that's the same answer we get by even using the formula. Okay, now this case is different here because this is a vertical line. Okay, now vertical lines, as we have learned, the slope is undefined. Because of this, why do we say it's undefined? See, they have written the coordinates for this. So this is going to be 2, 3, 4. So this is going to be 4 and 5. Okay, and the coordinate for this point is going to be -3. Where is the 3? -3 and sorry, it's 4 and -3. Where is the parenthesis? Wait. Okay, ignore this part. Now I cannot just. Okay, fine. So the coordinate for this is going to be 4 and -3. Why is it 4? It's 2, 3, 4. So 4 and -3. So these are the two coordinates given to us. So you can use anyone as y1, x1 and then do it. So let's take this as y2, x2, y2, x1, y1. So formula is y2 minus y1. So y2 is 5 minus -3 because it's already -3. So 5 minus -3, and then x2 minus x1, that's 4 minus 4. So 5 minus -3 minus will give you plus. So 5 plus 3 is 8 divided by 0. How can you divide 8 by 0? You can't. There is no answer for 8 divided by 0. So that's why they say the slope is undefined. Okay, it cannot be 8 divided by 0 because you cannot divide any number by 0. That's something out of the question. Okay, you cannot divide any number by 0. So because you need to divide this 8 by 0, the slope is undefined as it doesn't have an answer. But whenever you see a vertical line, that's undefined. Simple as that. The slope for a vertical line is going to be undefined. Now before we move on to the next question, to start doing the question, do watch the video and see what they have to say, and then we will start doing the question.
Let's take a look at an application problem that involves...
Okay, sorry, not this one. That's a word problem which you'll be watching later. Let's watch this.
Let's take a look at finding slopes of lines. But before we do that, let's review some definitions. The slope of a line is the ratio of rise to run. If x1, y1, and x2, y2 are any 2 points on the line, then the slope of the line is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Well, you can also think about slope in terms of rise over run, where the rise is the difference in the y values of the 2 points on a line, and the run is the difference in the x values of the 2 points on a line. With this in mind, let's find some slopes. The first example we have line AB. And we're going to have to first determine the coordinates of that line. And we have 2 points. I'm going to put this up here so we can remember our slope formula. Point A, the coordinates of point A are 3, 1. And the coordinates of point B, 6, 3. Using this slope formula, y2 minus y1, you know what I want to do now? I want to first indicate which is x1. Let's call this x1, y1. Okay? And let's call the second ordered pair x2, y2. Now let's substitute. We have, according to the formula, y2, in this case, it's 3 m equals, which is slope, 3 minus, what's y1? 1 over x2 is 6 minus x1 is 3. Let's simplify. 3 minus 1 is 2. 6 minus 3 is 3. So we have 2/3 as our slope. And notice it is positive and it's slanting to the right. Let's try another one. Let's try CD. Once again, I'm going to put this up here so it will help us to remember our slope formula. We're wanting to find the slope of line CD. Well, the slope of line CD, we need to first identify some coordinates. For point C, we have 3 down 2, negative 2. And for point D, we have 3 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. Once again, I'm going to indicate, let's call the first ordered pair x1, y1. x1, y1, and the second one, x2, y2. This is something I want you to remember. When you're identifying the ordered pairs, if this is going to be the x1, y1, make sure these are x2, y2. You can't go x1, y2. These have to be the 1s, and these have to be the 2s. Now let's go to our formula. In our formula, it says the slope is equal to y2, which is 5, minus, which is y1, which is a negative 2, over x2, which is 3, minus 3. What do we get? 5 minus a negative 2. Remember, you add the opposite, so that's going to be 7 over 0. But division by 0 is undefined. So our slope in this case is undefined. I want you to notice something. What kind of line do we have here? We have a vertical line. All vertical lines parallel to the y-axis, the slope is going to be undefined. That's something you may want to remember. You'll see it again. Let's try another one.
Okay, I think that was enough because already I also have shown you girls what you have to do here. So let's move on and try to do some questions because I want you to do some important question, some problem solving questions. Okay. Now, before we go on, I just want to again revise this part. Already we have learned about this part. Remember, if it's moving from up right to left, it's a positive slope, which means your slope needs to be a positive number. If it's coming from left to right down, then it is a negative slope, which means your slope is going to be a negative number. Zero slope when the line is horizontal with the x-axis. As you can see, the slope is going to be zero. Now, for example, such questions here, see the one above, this a horizontal slope. So if they say use the slope formula, you will find the coordinates and then subtract, because that's going to give you some zero divided by something equals zero. So because the slope is zero, they say this it's a zero slope. So always remember, for horizontal lines the slope is zero, and for vertical lines the slope is undefined. Okay. Now let's go on and do some questions from page 185. Okay. Now I know, because you girls already know what you will be feeling, why we have to do it, but we have to keep studying. That's all. So use the slope formula. Now specifically they said use the slope formula, so we have to use it. So first, before we start, let's find out the coordinates for these points. Okay. Now the coordinates for point M is going to be 5 and 7. So first let's write down the coordinates. That's 5 and 7. Okay, and for this point, the coordinates are going to be -2 and -1. Okay, so this point is -2 and this is, sorry, it's 1, not even -1, it's 1. Because yeah. Okay, so let's write the you have to write the formula. I'm not writing it, I'm just saying M equals, now y2 you can take any as x1 y1 x2 y2, so I take this as y x2 and y2. So x2 is 7 minus y1 is 1. Okay, so that's going to be over 5, that's x2, minus x1 is -2, so minus 2. Okay, so 7 minus 1 is going to give you how much? That's going to give you a 6. And 5 minus -2 is going to give you, -2 will give you positive plus. So 5 plus 2 is going to give you 7. So your slope here has to be 6/7. Now, is this a positive slope? See, there are no negatives here, so it's a positive slope. As I told you, if your slope is coming from right to left down, then it needs to be a negative number. If not a number, a fraction, of course. Or if you want to check your answer, use the formula rise over run. So rise over run means from this point to this point. How many do we need to move up? Let's check. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 rise, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 run. So your slope is going to be 6/7. So the same here, we have C and D. Okay, so C and D, again you will find the coordinates for this. Coordinates for C is -5, and the y-axis is 3. So -5 and 3. And for this, it's going to be 4 and -2. Okay, so as usual, use the formula M equals y2. So let me take this as y2, up to you, whichever you want to do. Now, before find the answer, check the slope. Check the line. It's coming from left to right, which means your slope has to be a -1, a negative number. Okay, so it's going to be 3 minus -2, minus and -2. It's already in the coordinate, over x2, which is -5 minus 4, because x1 is 4. Okay, so let's find the answer for this. So minus will give you plus. So 3 plus 2 is 5. And -5 minus 4 will give you a -9. So your slope is -5/9. As I told you, it's a negative slope. So your slope is -5/9. Okay, so this one is a very easy one. As it's a horizontal line, it's going to be a zero slope. Okay, because if you, it's a horizontal line, so the coordinates for this is going to be -5 and 1, and for this it's going to be 0 and 1. So if you solve it, and you will get something 0 divided by something, which will give you a zero slope. As we all know, horizontal lines give zero slope. Okay, now what I want you to mainly concentrate is this here. Okay, a migrating bird flying at a constant speed travels 80 miles by 8 a.m. and 200 miles by 11 a.m. Graph the line that represents the bird's distance traveled. Find and interpret the slope of the line. Now, I don't want you to graph it, because without graphing also we can find out the slope. It's not necessary always we have to use the same way for finding. Without graph also we can, as now we know how to find the slope by using the formula. So to use the formula we need two coordinates, right? So let's read the question again and get the coordinates from them. A migrating bird flying at a constant speed travels 80 miles by 8 a.m. So just imagine if this thing is in a graph, you can see that at 8 o'clock, the speed is 80. The distance traveled is, it's the speed, sorry. Okay, so when it's 8 o'clock, it's 80. Fine. So at 11 o'clock, it is 200 miles. So now we have two coordinates, x1, y1, x2, y2. So using this, we can find the slope. So m is going to be equal to y2, that's 200 minus 80, over x2 is 11, 11 minus 8. So that's going to give you 200 minus 80 is going to give you 120. And then 11 minus 8 is going to give you, of course, the bird is flying. So cannot be 11 minus 8 is 3. Okay, now we have to simplify this. 120 above 3 over 3, that's going to give us 40, which means the slope is 40. Now what does the slope mean? They said find and interpret. What does this 40 mean? 40 means the bird is flying at a constant speed of 40. That's why the slope is 40. So when the slope is 40 means you just have to interpret it. So you just write it in your own words as the bird is flying at a, I made mistakes, is flying at a constant speed of 40, the units are what? Miles per hour. Okay, so this is how you find out, you solve problem solving and then interpret the answers. Now before we go on, I just want you to watch this thing and then let's start. Okay,
Finding slope. Missy is driving from New Orleans, Louisiana to Dallas, Texas. At 2 p.m., she is 140 miles from New Orleans. At 5 p.m., she is 350 miles from New Orleans. We're to graph the line that represents the distance from New Orleans at a given time, and then find and interpret the slope of that line. I have a graph already done for you, and notice what I've done. The horizontal axis is in time per hour. Notice it goes from 0 to 6 hours. And the vertical axis is in distance, representing the distance in miles. Now let's go back to our problem. She's driving from New Orleans, Missy is, and she's traveling to, she's going to Dallas. At 2 p.m., she is 140 miles from New Orleans. So I'm going to start at 0, and I'm going to go to 2, which represents 2 p.m. She is how much? 140 miles. So I'm going to put a dot here, a point here, that represents the coordinate 2 p.m., 140 miles. And then at 5 p.m., she is 350 miles. 350 miles from New Orleans. So I'm going to put a point here and write that as 5,350. Graph this line. And then find the slope. We'll recall the slope formula. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay? Well, let's call this x2, y2. Sorry, x2, y2. And we're going to substitute. This is 350 minus, let's call this x1, y1. 140 over 5 minus 2. When we subtract, we get 210 miles divided by 3. And what's that equal to? 70. So our slope is 70. Now, what does that mean? That means that Missy is traveling at average speed of 70 miles per hour.
Okay, so it was almost similar to the question which we did. Okay, only thing she did by graphing it, and I just explained it to you without graphing it. That's all was the difference. So I just wanted you to watch because you need to know how to graph it. Okay, so without further just going on, there are some homework questions to be done for you. You'll be doing question number, wait, let me open the page first. Okay. Okay, I want you to be doing question number 10, 11, 12, 13, and question number 14 by yourself. It's very easy, girls. You won't even, I'm 100% sure you will not even take 5 minutes to do these 5 questions. So do these questions, question 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Now this is the most important question. This is all on page 186. So until I meet you tomorrow in next video, take care of yourself, do the homework, stay safe.